Alrighty, we've got another one. Good evening, people. Today our topic is influence of the elders. I'm gonna just read from my phone, just a little discussion notes. So let's discuss the impact that our elders have had on moulding who we are, our character, how we see ourselves, the world, etc., etc. How has their way of thinking and operating in the world influenced us? Elders being our parents, grandparents, extended family members, ancestors, generations back, persons older and unrelated, etc. Yeah, I think that's a big one. That's actually a really broad one. We could be talking for days on that.
Juicy. Juicy.
Where do we start? So many people to discuss, man.
You know what? I've had to literally, it's been 1 second, let me just move away from the children. I've been experiencing that this week. So it's quite interesting that that's the topic. This week I went to a counselling session, and I've been saying how backside my counselling sessions are.
Yeah.
Because the lady doesn't seem to quite understand me. But I was just talking, and I ended up going off on a rant, and I started yelling about my mum.
Oh.
Started not quite yelling, but just being very upset, and I could feel the anger building up.
Wow.
And it was about the fact that she did not keep me safe, and how did she not learn these lessons, and why, what was wrong with her, and why did she do. And I literally was having this big major rant. My stomach started hurting, and then I got like an epiphany, and I was like, I needed to go through the negative side. So I think I'll go straight to the negative. It's kind of like sometimes our elders impact us quite negatively, but it's in order for us to grow. And I feel like we'll always get a balance as well. So for me, my mum kind of really did some stuff that was quite hard for me, but because my dad, even though he does some stuff as well, but because my dad really inputted and his DNA made me quite rational, I'm able to combine the two in order to move forward from where the elders were, if that makes sense. So where my mum and her generation would have left off, I feel like I just had an epiphany that actually I'm going further than them.
Yes. Yeah.
It was it's one where I'm having to work through the pain, but at the same time still stay in a space of gratitude, which is quite difficult, but it's doable. So I think the elder's role is really important as a guide, whether it's positive or negative, it's still a guideline for us. There you go.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because it's like my dad, he actually uses the term himself. He actually says that I am the refined version of him. And that, I feel like as the generations go on, we're supposed to be getting better, aren't we? So our children need to be refined versions of us. So I actually really relate to that, and I respect that statement, especially as one of my elders saying that.
Definitely. And I think it's really easy to get caught up in what our elders have done wrong, and then get stuck there. So I feel like parents' generation have been stuck on what their parents did wrong.
Definitely.
And there wasn't enough forward movement. I couldn't be 60s born. They didn't really move forward. They kind of focused on what their parents didn't do. And I'm assuming, I'm going to make an assumption that that's the same for our grandparents' generation as well.
So this is Fiona. I've had something similar to that, and I'm just curious to find out, how are you moving positively, and how are you making sure that your whatever you've learned from your mom, you don't carry on to your children or to your nieces, nephew? How do you carry that forward, and how are you coping? Because I'm in the same situation. However, I had hypnosis. It's not hypnosis, it's rapid transformation therapy a few weeks ago. And I don't know I don't know whether you're aware, but I suffer from a condition called fibromyalgia, and it started when my mom passed away, and it's almost because of her not protecting us. And when she died, it was almost like there's nobody there to. The trauma just fell on us, and I just felt like she didn't protect us the way I wanted her to. So for me, it's taken me 4 years to even to try and deal with what's happened in the past 39 years of my life. So I'm just wondering, how are you coping, and how are you how has the impact of her not taking you to the right direction been for you, and how are you dealing with it?
It was just, like I said, it was literally just Wednesday, but it was interesting because in the rant I realized that's why I get so upset when I'm not able to do the things that I feel like I need to do. That's why I've been feeling really trapped. Because for me, I know that my only way out is the only way for me to be able to handle it in a positive way is for me to actually focus on my personal development. But being a mom and, you know, life, I have kind of, that's always been pushed to the side. So I kind of had like a realization that actually my focus needs to be on building up all those tools that I have to be able to get to that space where I can fully forgive. Because every time I feel like I've forgiven, actually I haven't. You know, there's a level of anger, and it's in my core, so I can feel it in my stomach, I can feel it in my chest, and I know that it's pretty much eating away at me. So I've had to really stop for a second and say, okay, I have to focus on me. Like, I have to put myself first. So I'm not really focusing on what my mom has done or hasn't done, because at the end of the day, I can know that everybody does their best. It's more about me making sure that I've got the tools to be able to spin it. And I feel like all traumas, when you go through something that's traumatic, you go through it for a reason, so that you then are able to support others that are going to be going through it. And for me, once I get through it, because I can see the pain now, I can see what it is. Once I get through that, I'm going to be able to help so much more people. And that's my energy center from having my energy center red is about charity. So I know that that's something that I'm going to be able to put out there and support others with. So I'm trying to pull it in a positive spin, and then hopefully during that process I'll be able to get into a space of forgiveness. Well, not hopefully, I will be in a space of forgiveness. Because it's not like I can sit down and have a conversation with my mum, because my mum's not the kind of person that's very chatty. But I know I need to get into a space where I'm able to express myself, get whatever I need to do, get off me without breaking down another human. I wouldn't want to break my mum down. And then just work through that. So it's actually putting me more in a positive space. And I'm just focusing not on not falling down or breaking, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's good that you're putting it in a positive place. For me, I didn't blame anybody. I didn't blame her. But it just manifested in my body, and I became sick, very, very sick. But I didn't, because you can't, once water has gone, you can't go back and pick it up. So for me, the the rapid transformation therapy, it's like hypnosis. It helped. So for me now, I'm just on a pathway to healing. So yeah, and as you, I haven't joined any charities or anything, but I do try to speak to people who are going through stuff and just being a better mom to my daughter as well.
Did you have a question at the beginning, Leash?
No, I just highlighted just what we're discussing. It was in the link, but I'll just run through it quickly again. 2 seconds.
That's all right. It's the elders, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the elders. So basically, it was just let's discuss the impacts that our elders have had on molding who we are, our character, how we see ourselves, the world, etc., etc. How has their way of thinking and operating in the world influenced us? Elders being our parents, grandparents, extended family members, ancestors, generations back, persons older and unrelated, etc.
Okay.
And then it's open to.
Okay. So for me personally, I where can I start? So I got kicked out of my house when I was 14, the first time I got thrown out of my house. And in terms of how did that affect me and my perception of myself, I thought that I was a liar and just had bad energy. So I thought that I didn't know myself. I felt like everybody else knew me better than I knew myself, because the reaction to the things that would trigger me getting thrown out of the house didn't seem that bad to me. However, to the rest of my world, it was bad. You know, it was that bad that it warranted me getting thrown out of the house. Wow. I quickly kind of realized that, not even realized, but there was a conflict of whether I'm the issue or my mum's the issue, because every time she threw me out, I'd go to like one of my friends' houses or someone's house, and their mum would be really confused as to what my mum's issue is. So when I'm telling them what's happened, they'll be like, but that's not that major. Wow. But then at the same time, I can see where I remained in the middle with, they might be right and she might be right. It was never about what I thought, so to speak. Okay. My nan used to cry, and I remember the one time hearing her saying, you're going to kill her, you're going to kill her. But I literally didn't see the serious of it during that time. It was only when I got older I remembered, I was like, wow, my nan used to say that she's trying to kill me, but to me it was normal. So what influence did that have on my perception of the world? I lived in a space of uncertainty, okay, and which was quite drastic because my ambitions are not normal. So I've never aspired to, not saying there's anything wrong with just going for your average job, etc., but I've never aspired to be like a social worker, or I've always wanted to be what you would consider great. I've always wanted to become an author. I've always wanted to be a singer. All the out the box stuff, that's what I've always wanted to be. So it created a double uncertainty. So if I guess my life probably would have been different if I wanted to fit in the box, so to speak. Yeah. Because there is a pattern to follow. But every time I tried to do that, I was like, hold on, this isn't me. So then when I'm going out of the box, that uncertainty was ever more strong, because you've got that self-doubt that kicks in, that whole next level fear that kicks in where you need a coach and things like that. Yeah. So, but I always kind of had imposter syndrome. Wow. In regards to that. So rather than, some people would just be like, okay, I know I want to be an author, so I need to get a coach to do that. I thought that I was being fake by wanting to achieve those things.
Wow.
Where my intuition got questioned was when I was 10 years old. I had a conversation with my mum about my dad, and she was I'm very romantic, and I can see now how romantic I was as a child. And I remember I always used to ask my mum, how did you meet my dad? And I wanted to hear the story, even though it was a horrible story, it was a drastic story, I still enjoyed to hear it. And this one day when I was about 10, 11, I'm listening to her and I've gone, "You're lying."
Wow.
And she was like, "What?" And I said, "You're lying." And she was like, "What do you mean?" I said, "You've got that heat wave over your head." But in my head, that meant she was lying. This wave over her head meant she was lying. And she was like, "What are you talking about? What are you talking about?" And I said, "Mum, you're lying because that thing's there, so that means that you're lying." And she was like, "Shut up, blah, 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 blah." And I can see that day was the day where I stopped listening to Sereena and her intuition.
Wow.
Years have gone past, and over those years, I had that same feeling would come back with various things where I'd say, "But he's not my dad. He's not my dad. I just didn't think he was my dad." If he tried to discipline me, I would argue with him and say, You're not my effing dad. Go away." I'd go on terrible, which led to me not trusting myself or anyone in my environment, because this feeling and this thought process was so strong to the point where I thought I was going crazy. And when I was 17, I went and had counselling. And the counsellor said to me, "There's people out there who have been raped and have got lots of different issues. You know, I'm not prepared to sit here and listen to you call your mum a liar. Just ask your mum," basically. But what she didn't know is that me and my mum haven't got communication. So it then left me in a space of uncertainty again. Yeah. Fast forward to 3 years ago now, I've done a paternity test on the guy who she said was my dad, and it came out negative. So we've discovered now that all this time I was right. However, the point is that situation affected my whole decision making.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in terms of what you know, our elders and the influence for me personally, I seen that was really serious. Yeah, you know, the influence that we as adults have on our children, not allowing them to or even our nieces and nephews and people, you know, just people around us, the youngsters at the bus stop, you know, the person who the youngsters who you meet in your everyday life, you know, how much of an influence we have on them listening to themselves. I think that's a major thing, you know, training them to listen to themselves and tap into their integrity from when they're young. For me, I don't see any other role as an elder. It's about allowing people to trust your foresight, that you've experienced this life kind of already. So it's about getting the youngsters to trust that you're going to open their minds to, you know, we're their gateway to the future, you know, we're their insight. That's a big role as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I agree totally.
Yeah.
And that
did you find that there because I've had you and I think it was Marlica, or I don't know whether it was
Marlica.
Yeah. So therapy, do you find that it works, or you keep going over the hurt over and over? Because with this you have to move forward in order to help others to see the positive. Do you feel it works, or?
So for me personally, if I answer your question,
yeah, go on.
I don't believe in traditional therapy. For me, again, it's a box, associating myself with someone who I don't relate to, because all these theorists are haven't come from the same walk of life as me. They don't look like me. So it's pretty much not logical for me to be able to understand myself through them. So I don't go to traditional therapy. However, I spent probably over 15 years reading books about African spirituality, Hinduism. I've actually delved into every single religion. Actually, I embraced Islam when I was 17 because I was going to commit suicide because I couldn't cope with the thoughts of keep thinking that my dad's not my dad and my mom's telling me that he isn't. So I thought I was crazy. So I embraced Islam, and it was quite a smart move when I look back now, because I needed to cover up. I needed to hide myself so that I could just be into myself. So I wasn't triggered by everything around me. Not that I was conscious of that or able to articulate that at the time, but it was the most smartest thing that I could ever have done. Christianity wasn't doing it for me. When I went to the counsellor, as I said, I got rejected, so that was just a no-no. So a lot of different things happened during that time. My partner passed away, my husband passed away, my first husband. I lost my baby, and I just went to live in Paris. So I took myself outside of the environment. So to answer your question, the way that I healed was by going on my journey to find out who I am. So taking myself away from the responsibility, away from what society says that I should be doing, or the people that I should be seeking advice from, and going on a Sereena journey.
Yeah. That's really good, because I've been going for therapy. I'm glad that you guys said that, because I've been going for therapy for, I think, maybe 6 months, and I just feel like it doesn't even solve anything. It's like I'm just digging into a wound, digging deeper and deeper, and it just doesn't work. So I was curious to know whether for you guys you feel the same. And I do agree with Marlica when she said that her outlet is to help people positively, and I find that helps. It's even better than 10 years worth of therapy sessions.
Well, the biggest thing that worked for me was in 2013. I went to see a guru in India, and I spent 21 days there.
Wow. I'd like to do that.
I had like intense therapy, if you call it therapy, where I had to really work on everything, and also understand how to maneuver amongst people, even though they're triggers. Triggers, because I was very much hiding sometimes, which would translate as going into depression. Or
yes, I can relate to that. Yeah.
Really, it's not really that. It's more about people are triggers. So it's about how to understand yourself within that dynamics. And what maintains that. I'm glad I did go away for that long and have that intense training. I had certain Hindu initiations and things, which then allowed me to open up and find out who I am. So, that said, when it comes to my dad issue, I realised that I have a really, really big special gift where my intuition is not normal, where I'm able to kind of read people a way that really needs to be tapped into, and has been tapped into over the past couple of years by various people. So I help people, but I don't get healing from helping people. I get healing from understanding what my mind's saying about certain things. So if a circumstance happens, I would then go away and say, well, what am I saying around that? So for example, I don't know, just say I wanted to open a business, and for some reason it's not happening, and I'm not attracting the right things to make that happen. I know that there's something, I'm saying something negative about setting up, so I have to sit with myself and say, well, what are you saying? So I might be saying things like, I'm not worthy. So then I have to look at, when was the first time I felt or heard of that? When did I decide that? So then you have to go to that whole hypnosis or past life regression, current life regression. And it may have been when I was younger, when my mum says, you don't deserve to know who your dad is or something like that. So that's now, that is business opportunity is now triggering that situation, which is making me have the same negative thought process towards this business situation. So then I have to go back to that situation where I felt like I was undeserved and heal that, and then approach business again situation or opportunity again with a new cognition, with a new mindset. So I'm constantly in therapy.
Sorry to put 8 minutes left. Yeah, thank you for you guys are making. But can I just put a spin on it? Because as much as it's been more of a negative impact of the elders, they've all had a very positive impact as well, you know. And I just it would be nice to kind of end on a bit more of a
positive note.
Positive note, you know.
Yeah.
You know what? In terms of
say that, Alicia.
That's all right, still.
What? Sorry?
I'd like to jump in on that if that's all right, still.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, like, cause I understand, like, definitely similar to the ladies that I find this very week. It was like more about the being triggered to the point I'm having to do in a conversation. I'm having to do is it Ho'oponopono prayer, like, and explain to my mom, like, because as much as I love her, I wanted to knock her out. But then I started really having a conversation with myself and going, well, boy, look at the traumas that they went through. They could only teach us what they knew and from their reference point. And as much as they've got their issues, every generation is supposed to be better and build on the building blocks that was given from the ones before. And just remembering, they come up in a time where, all right, from our grandparents' time, it was authority had the final word and you don't question. You're the little person. You don't question anything. And there's a real kind of hierarchy, whereas we are more like from the indigo phase come to just broke down all of that. So it's like, hold on, question meant for arts. So I'm going to ask a question. So it's just like we will probably look at the generations that come after us and we don't get some of the things that we do. We try and, because we come from that place of inquiry, we start to ask questions about why they do what they do. But there's certain tools that they've given us that without us even realizing, like certain things that my grandma used to say, like when I was asking too much questions, why is a crooked letter cut off the tail and you get V and V's a vagabond? At the time, I'm like, what are you talking about? It's only when I lick 40 now and I'm getting up in age and I'm becoming an older for somebody else. I'm realizing, is that what she meant? She was telling man to shut up, and baffling me up, you get me? Because she didn't have the answers. But because she never come from a place where I would turn around to my niece and say, I don't know about that, but let's go on Google and find out. Because I come from that place of inquiry and respecting in the hierarchy. Okay, boom. Doesn't matter where you are in the hierarchy, everybody's valid. But grandma would have been coming from the place of, Una pitney, Una sit down and listen. No question big people.
But don't you think, sorry to cut you, Natalie, but don't you think, that even though my nan would have been the one who seemingly would be the more ignorant one, I learnt more from my nan than my mum. So that's what I find interesting. I find that really interesting. I was saying
that's because they had a grounding from back home, because all right, my mum was born here, so my mum.
It's very strange though how, for me, it's strange how they rejected our nan's teachings, but we didn't. Like, it just totally missed them. So even though we're third generation Windrush, we never grew up in Jamaica. So how come we listen to them?
But there's
because
always
we had
the generation in terms of grandchildren and grandparents. It's just that's how it is.
Yeah.
So I was saying, who was I saying it to the other day? I can't remember who said it to me the other day, but they were saying what's supposed to happen is the grandma and your granddad spoke when your mom has, say the mom has children, she's supposed to then give them to the grandma and the granddad to bring up, because they've been through life, they've done that, they know how to bring up children, they're fucked up, and now know from their mistakes. You're supposed to give the kids to them, and the mum and the dad are supposed to go and then become the grandma and granddad where they then can go and look after your children. But I don't know what happened to our parents. I don't hate my mum, but I do know that I find her very triggering. So I don't go around her, and I don't understand where she's coming from. Yes, I know that she's got her issues and she's probably been through things, but if you can't verbalize that and rationalize that with me, then I don't know what to say, because I wouldn't if you wasn't my blood, you're not the kind of person that I would be around. I wouldn't feel safe being around someone like you. So it's not a case of whether I don't like her or not. It's more or whether I don't forgive her. It's more a fact that I've now had to take that parent role for myself to parent myself and protect myself from any harm.
I think sometimes we're too close to in the generations. I think that the fact that it's 2 generations gap between a grandchild and a grandparent, that actually really works. Because I can, just to add to what you're saying, Sereena, I was very fortunate that I did grow up around my grandparents daily. So my mum was there, but in terms of the people who were coming with that level of guidance was definitely my nan and granddad, and I see the difference, and I see how much. This is why I'm an old woman, because I am literally Goldie Mullings, Brian Mullings walking. I am my grandparents. You know what I mean? You sit down in a room with me and then my grandparents and my parents, you're going to see a lot more of my behaviour and my character.
And with my mum, she tried to block me learning from anybody now. And then my nan now, she blocked that as well, because like my nan, I fully knew my nan when she died. My nan had stocks and shares when she died, 30 grand. Like I could have had a conversation with my nan about that if I knew. Like my nan knows how to do stocks and shares. I've got people running around saying they know how to do stocks and shares and they don't. And my nan knew how to do it. Do you get what I mean? She actually created a contract with NHS, and she was selling aprons to them. That's a businesswoman. Like I've got a pattern. I could have known. So yeah, there's a whole thing about it, innit?
I think that there's something about them coming from a place of groundedness. I think like our generation.
Why don't you start it again so we can continue?
Yeah.
I don't mind.
Okay.
Send another link in the group so we can continue, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, if everyone just looks out in the group, and then we will continue shortly.
All right.
Oh, was it?